welcome to a very lovely part of rural northern Spain. I've come here for a bit of a break. Not a holiday, mind you. Robert doesn't let me have those. No, a break from all the medium-sized blobby electric SUVs. And a much needed one, frankly. I've seen your comments on our recent videos. I know you feel the same way. This latest batch of EVs are very lovely, but they are, on the whole, just too big, too powerful, too heavy, and about as aerodynamic as Crichton's face. In their efforts to be premium and desirable, modern electric cars have ended up being excessive and wasteful. But not all of them. And we've come here today to spend some time with a car that is the antithesis of all of that. A car that I'm hopeful may go on to be the blueprint for the next generation of electric vehicles. This is a biggie. This is the Lightyear Zero, and this is fully charged.
Looking for some sunshine and clean air? Well, where better than Southern California this September? We're bringing all of the electric vehicles under the sun and an array of clean technologies to America's finest city this fall. Yes, that's right, Fully Charged Live USA, powered by Electrify America, is coming to San Diego. So for fresh perspectives, exhilarating test rides, electrifying live talks, and all of your favorite YouTubers, get your tickets today.
Well, this is quite an exciting day. You may remember a few years ago, 2 years ago, Robert drove a very early prototype of this car on the channel. We're here today to drive the damn near finished article. They're going to start delivering this car to customers later this year. It's here, it's real, and it's fabulous. So I'm getting ahead of myself. What is this? Well, according to Lightyear, it's the world's most sustainable car. Vegan interior, recycled bodywork, oh, and through an arseload of solar panels and hyper-efficient drivetrain, the ability to go months between charges. Months. Now, there's a lot to take in with this car. We have so little time with it today. So I've been thinking about how best to present this to you. And I think what I should do is just give you all the crazy numbers, and then we'll go for a drive together and try to understand how it achieves them. But before I do that, I first need to make very clear what this car is and what it's not. Because what it definitely isn't is cheap utilitarian transport for the masses. You can probably tell just by looking at it, this is not a cheap car, but you may not be prepared for just how not cheap. So I'm going to say the number now. Relax, breathe. It's $250,000. Yeah, I know, it's $250,000. It's $250,000 car. But do you know what? Actually, I don't care. I don't care, because this car, it's not really about the car. Let me explain what I mean by that. This car for me is two things. First and foremost, as I mentioned in the intro, I genuinely hope that this is the start of an industry-wide shift in the way that we design cars. A long overdue mindset change with a new emphasis on efficiency instead of excess. But more practically, what this car actually is step one of Lightyear's master plan. This is a fundraiser for the next car, and the next car will take this technology system and apply it to a mass-produced sub $30,000 car. That's what Lightyear is about as a company. It doesn't want to build toys for rich people in low volume. They want to bring electric cars to everyone, everywhere. And this car is step one to making that happen. So enough of that. Let's get into these chunky numbers. Right, stat attack. Now, the number you're going to want, the number on everyone's minds, is of course the range figure, because if this is a super efficient, super long range EV, well, how far does it go for £250,000? Fair question. Now, most press packs that I've been given for new cars, range is one number. For Lightyear, it was a page. And they gave you all sorts of real world applications and explained how much range you get in those various applications. We'll come to those a bit later. For starters, let's do it the old-fashioned way. WLTP range, no solar panels, okay? We're completely disregarding the 5 square meters of solar. We're just looking at how much mileage the car can pull from its battery of its own volition, okay? Now, Lightyear Zero has a 60 kilowatt hour battery. That's middling in size for modern EVs, right? 60 kilowatt hours, that's the same size as the new Renault Megane E-Tech. It's a tiny, tiny bit bigger than the one fitted to the entry-level Tesla Model 3. The Megane, which is a pretty efficient car, will pull about 280 miles WLTP from its battery. The Model 3, with a very slightly smaller battery, 2.5 kilowatt hours smaller, that'll do 305 miles WLTP. The Lightyear Zero, without solar, 388 miles of WLTP range. And I know what some of you are going to say. You're going to hear that number and go, oh, for £250,000 you only get 80 more miles than a Tesla. Well, yes, but to understand just how unbelievable that number is, we need to go into the efficiency figures. Are you still with me? So here's the big number. Here's the one that really helps you understand why this car is such a big deal. A Tesla Model 3 at motorway speed will do about 4 miles per kilowatt hour. That's its efficiency. That's a really impressive efficiency. Bobby tells me on a really good day he might get 5 miles per kilowatt hour. For context, something like a Porsche Taycan Turbo at motorway speed, you're looking at 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour. Lightyear Zero, 6 miles per kilowatt hour. And here's the really, really exciting bit. The technology inside of this car that enables it to be so efficient is not especially expensive. In fact, it's scalable into much smaller mass-produced cars that cost, say, $30,000, which happens to be exactly what Lightyear plans on doing next. More of that in a second. We are out on the road in the very nearly production ready Lightyear Zero. This is a bit surreal. This has been a long time coming, this moment. And I'm very afraid of crashing it, first and foremost, but I'm not going to because it drives nice and simple to drive. This is a pre-production car, we have to remind you of that. So dynamically a few things are still being adjusted. The power steering is still being tweaked, for example. Likewise, there are a few materials in this cabin that are not going to feature on the finished car because they're currently 3D printed. Also worth mentioning that sat next to me, just out of camera, is Roel, who is the chief engineer here at Lightyear, the man who built this car and the same chap who took Bobby for a spin a couple of years ago. I think my first impression is that I'm very aware that I'm driving a really, really efficient car because the car is making sure that I'm aware of that fact. On this screen in the middle here, I can see exactly what my solar panels are doing. I can tell you where the sun is without looking out the window because this screen shows me the ones on the front are a little bit darker, which means the sun is up there in front of me somewhere. If I were to spin around and go that way, the ones on the back would go darker because they are getting more sun. Alternatively, I can have this screen here, which is giving me every imaginable metric about my current efficiency, my efficiency over the last 3 kilometers, how much charging I'm currently getting from regen, how much juice I'm currently getting from the sun. It reminds me a little bit, and I mean this in a good way, of an early Nissan Leaf, which is another car that really made a point of putting efficiency right in the front of the driver's mind. There's no point building a hyper-efficient car if you're not going to then encourage people to treat it properly and drive it properly. And this car very obviously wants to be driven in an efficient way. Now, some of our less technically inclined viewers may be wondering, why are Lightyear so obsessed with efficiency? Well, currently, the popular method for giving an electric car big range is by giving it a really big battery. But doing so has negative knock-on effects on cost, weight, and about a million other things. But if you instead design an electric car to just be very efficient, all those problems go away. An efficient EV can make do with a smaller battery, which makes it cheaper to buy, cheaper to run, lighter, better to drive, quicker to charge, and ultimately kinder to the planet, to name just a few of the benefits. Put simply, efficiency is the magic key to making electric cars better. And it is ridiculously overlooked in modern car design. Anyway, more on that shortly, but first, a quick cameo from the Spanish police.
There's no use in making a car so efficient that you can actually drive on 5 square meters of solar panel for thousands of kilometers a year.
Yeah.
And then wasting your energy on... No, we have to stop here.
Oh.
That's a first. I've never been pulled over.
We interrupt this program to briefly be pulled over by the police in Spain. It should be interesting. Un momento, por favor.
Your Spanish is already better than mine.
No. Do you have any vehicle documentation with us?
Not with us.
See?
Ya que estamos.
Solar. So all of this?
Solar.
All of this solar?
Only solar.
Mostly solar. If you need to, you can charge,
Vale.
but you don't really have to because so much solar. I am just now selling this car to these Spanish
Good.
police officers. Okay.
If you want to, you can join us to the hotel. We have Spanish-speaking colleagues who can tell you all about the car.
Okay.
Gracias.
We're good.
I think they just couldn't be f***ed, really. Right, for the benefit of our viewers at home, we just had a small altercation with the police, who initially were very confused by our Dutch number plates, and kind of seemed like they were potentially going to arrest us. And then they just changed their minds and just wanted to tour around the car. So we explained to them how much range it's got, we showed them the boot. I think they're going to buy one. Now, I wish we had more time. I wish I could do a more thorough test. We will, as soon as the final car is ready. What I can tell you, a little number, just to wrap up this test drive section. Our efficiency over the last few minutes of driving is 104 watt hours per kilometre. We'll put that down here, what that is in miles per kilowatt hour, which is the way that I prefer to think about this stuff. But it is bloody efficient. So, how does the Lightyear Zero achieve that incredible efficiency? Well, partly, as you might be able to guess, it achieves it through an incredibly aerodynamic design. The Zero's sleek, 5-metre long teardrop-shaped body, aero rims and rear wheel spats all contribute to a drag coefficient of 0.19, making it the most aerodynamic family car ever made. Weight is kept to a minimum too, thanks to the modest battery size and an entirely carbon fibre body. The car weighs 1,575 kilos, about the same as a Renault Zoe, or, if you prefer, a full 800 kilos less than a similarly sized Porsche Taycan. And then there is the incredible drivetrain. In most EVs, the motor sends power to a differential, which then splits it and sends it to the wheels, but energy is lost in the process. Not in the Zero. Here, a lightweight motor is mounted inside each wheel. No gears, no fuss. The motors spin and the wheels spin at that same speed, resulting in virtually zero energy wastage. And we haven't even gotten to the Lightyear's party piece yet. This car is essentially some solar panels with a car attached to it. When Lightyear designed this car, they started with a blank piece of paper, then they drew a really big solar panel, and then they just kind of figured out how to fit a car underneath it. This was the start of the idea. The whole hyper-efficient powertrain, that's there to facilitate solar-powered driving. Lightyear were explaining to me, the average EV, it's not really worth putting solar panels on because they're not efficient enough to really make use of them. This is a solar car. On a good day, on a really sunny day like today, you can get 70 kilometers of range out of these bad boys. But that number doesn't really put it into context. That doesn't really help you understand just how much of your driving you can be doing off the sun. So let me pull a few real world examples that they provided me with that I think are quite interesting. So case study number one, it's a bit of a tentative one, but it is quite good fun. If you live in Portugal in the summertime, if you're averaging 30, 35 kilometers a day, a fairly typical commute, you won't have to charge for 7 months. Here's another one I'm quite fond of. Comparative numbers of times that you would have to charge this car compared to a regular car. Let's say you own a big battery VW ID3 and you live in Amsterdam and you commute 40 kilometers a day. If that's your lifestyle, you're going to be charging that ID3 about 35 times across the year. The Lightyear? 9 times. And actually, the implications of a car that is so reliant on the sun for its energy are truly remarkable. For example, you could sell this car, or perhaps the subsequent model, to parts of the world where there is no charging infrastructure at all. Because between an overnight charge from a domestic socket and solar charging, this car can do 500 kilometers a day. What we're now doing, where we've been driving this whole time with regen on, we're now turning regen completely off to experience the rolling resistance or lack thereof in this car. So, nice flat road, taking my foot off. It feels like my foot's still on the throttle. This is a dead flat road, arrow straight. I took my foot off the throttle 5 seconds ago. 81 kilometers an hour, 80, 79. We're barely losing any speed. This is what hyper efficiency looks like. I could get to the end of this road, 74 kilometers per hour. We're barely slowing down. And just before the police tried to shoot us, Raoul gave me some really good engineering examples of the obsession with efficiency in this car. I'll give you a couple of them. For one, normally in a modern car, even an EV, you would see suspension components kind of protruding from underneath. In this car, the whole suspension system has been engineered in such a way that it's raised a bit higher than normal, in line with the center of the wheel, so that nothing juts out underneath that flat floor to make it as flat as possible. Another example, those in-wheel motors have been designed to be just thin enough that they actually fit entirely inside the wheel, again, so that nothing protrudes and detracts from the car's aerodynamic properties. Another example I really like, I can feel something just under my feet here. There's a bit of a lump just behind the pedal box. That would be the battery. The battery's not right down in the floor, it's kind of raised up into the floor, again, for maximum flatness. We almost got arrested a bit. So, concluding thoughts on the Lightyear Zero. Well, I don't have any concluding thoughts because I've only driven it for about 5 seconds, then I got a little bit arrested. So we'll save handling and dynamic reviews for a later date once we're able to do a full review of the finished car in the UK. Because as much as I say the car isn't the point, it does have to be just good enough to convince a handful of eccentric lunatics to buy one. And frankly, I don't think Lightyear are going to have a problem doing that. The idea of taking that technology system, lots of solar, hyper efficient drivetrain, and then installing it into a $30,000, £25,000 mass-produced family car, that's a bit of a game changer. That's a car that can go twice as far as similarly priced EVs, that needs charging 5 times less. That's an electric car that you can sell in parts of the world where there is no charging infrastructure whatsoever. It's like I said, efficiency is the magic key in making electric cars just better in every way. And I am praying that the rest of the car industry are going to see the work being done here and go, oh my God, they're right. And I think they are. That Mercedes EQXX, does it remind you of anything? I think that this is the beginning of a seismic shift in this industry. I think we'll look back on that funny little car in a few years' time and go, ooh, that was a bit of a moment. We'll have to see. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's drive it a bit more before we opinionate too strongly. For the time being, please do make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have been, thank you for watching.
So if you enjoyed that episode with Jack, and who doesn't enjoy an episode with Jack? Everyone enjoys an episode with Jack. It's all here. Jack's really good. Jack's great. Jack's brilliant. Anyway, there's another episode down here with Jack, but there's one here with me, and that is the Patreon link, and up there you can subscribe to The Fully Charged Show.